This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show.
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show. Thursday.
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
Great show.
What's happening, everybody?
This is the Buffy and Lamar show.
What's up, y'all? This is the Buffy and Lamar show. I'm your host, Lamar Quincy, back again for another episode of the quarantined Buffy and Lamar show. We are live. Well, no, we're not live. We are at home doing the show once again. Yeah. We were not able to go back to the studio as of yet, but hopefully the virus will hit that peak soon and we get to all go back to work and do what we love and enjoy doing. My host in everything and in life is the one, the only, the incomparable, special, like no other, Janita M, a.k.a. Buffy.
What's up?
The sky.
Are you tired of me yet?
Yeah. We've been quarantined for a lot of days. So we can be honest and say that we're kind of getting on each other's nerves a little bit.
The funny thing about it is that we actually spend a lot of time together.
Already.
We're together all the time, but I don't know if we've ever been together this much. It's a lot.
So it's appropriate that our show for today is going to kind of deal with, I guess, some new experiences for people who are in relationships and may not have spent this much time together with each other.
Well, this is new for everybody, so we kind of have to figure it out together.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever been in this situation, I don't think, when you're like
quarantined.
Quarantined.
Yeah, and you spend hours and hours
and hours with your spouse.
And hours and hours.
And your
hours.
homeschool teachers now.
And your homeschool teachers too.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure the wine stock is up right now. So
yeah, we contributed a lot.
If you want to invest in wine stocks because people are buying it.
Yes, they are.
So what do we got today? Who we got today? We got a guest today.
Of course, we have a guest today. Well, we wanted to, because we were kind of struggling. So we were talking about just kind of having the conversation about what do you do during this time to make sure you don't like choke your spouse to death. That would be a good thing if you don't do that. So today on the show, we have Dr. Karen Ruskin. She is a psychotherapist, licensed marriage and family therapist, a nationally renowned relationship and human behavior expert.
And Dr. Karen has appeared on Dr. Oz. She's been on Good Morning America. She's been on Fox News, MTV, and a lot more.
Definitely. She's on the Steve Harvey show, too.
Was she on Steve Harvey show?
Yes, you missed that one.
I did. No, you know what? I think I did see that one.
Maybe we watched that one together.
Maybe we did watch that one. So
she's also an author.
She's also an author.
Yes, she is the author of Dr. Karen's Marriage Manual, which we definitely need. Hey, Dr. Karen.
And Dr. Karen comes in right on time.
Yes, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing during this quarantine?
How am I doing? Just like everybody else.
We all have something in common now. Everybody's doing the same way.
Yeah, we're either completely compacted in our home with our family, or we are feeling isolated and not with people. So it's one or the other, or a combination of both. And thank you for the lovely introduction.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here with us. We couldn't wait to have you on the show, and this is a very appropriate time. We didn't know this was coming, but it's perfect.
Well, it's interesting because when you were talking about some of the books that I've written, and when I had written Dr. Karen's Marriage Manual way pre-Corona, the apocalypse, talk about the top ways to destroy a marriage and the top ways to not just survive a marriage, but thrive. And I find myself thinking about how those tips are so applicable now. So I'm excited today to talk about how your marriage can survive, how your kids can survive, how the family can survive this. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I was just thinking about that the other day too, because usually I wouldn't give the tips that I'm using now to people, because usually I'm like, oh, spend as much time as you can with each other. But it's like, there is a point where it's like way too much time. So
You feel like we spent too much time together?
yeah,
Now you want to draw a line in the sand.
Right.
It takes a pandemic to draw a line in
Yeah, I
the
didn't
sand.
know about the pandemic.
That's really why Buffy and Lamar are having me on the show today. This is an intervention.
Right. Free therapy. We're disguising it as an episode.
Right.
So what do you think some of the major tips would be for people to be able to thrive during this crazy time?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So let's break it down into different camps of family types.
Yes.
So we have the couple that's living together that doesn't have kids. Let's talk about that first. So very common, both people are at home, not working out of the home, or perhaps one or both are working out of the home and coming home feeling very stressed and frightened because now they've been out in the public and all the talk is about how you could possibly get this, and one person might be more clean than the other person, generally speaking. Now, what does this do to a relationship if the other person is feeling more obsessed than the other person? So these are all some couple dynamics. So regardless of your dynamic, whether you're working out of the home or feeling very feeling suffocated, like give me my space. Right. So it's about balancing time together and drum roll please, time apart.
Right.
Thank you for the drum roll. Exactly. And the best way to do that is actually to just say it. Instead of disconnecting by walking away just to get a little space, and then the other person knows you're trying to get space, just be like, babe, we're in lockdown, I just need some space. Just be like, I love you and I need space. It's not but I need space, because that negates the first sentence. And both ends, I love you. So tip, I love you. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to read. Or I love you, and I'm going to take a little bit of time on the patio to work out. I love you, I'm going to go paint. I love you, I'm going to listen to music. I love you, I'm going to do nails.
Right. I think a lot of couples are kind of afraid of that honesty.
Yeah.
But that honesty is good. Because
it's healthy.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, our honesty it helps us a lot.
Oh yeah, you just got to say it.
You just got to say it. Yeah,
you gotta say it. The honesty is more difficult. Than saying nothing with words instead of showing with your behavior. Right. Behavior often induces bad feelings, and then that induces more behaviors that end up becoming negative interactions, and that can cycle and expand like a snowball effect, a negative snowball effect. So instead, you do exactly what the three of us are chatting about. Just honest, confront. Your mate will appreciate you for it, and then your mate will do that in return, and then you're in essence role modeling honesty between one another. So the couple that is feeling suffocated, or the couple that is both or one or the other going out and then coming back, the key technique for them is honesty. So whether it's you're feeling nervous about that they're out and then coming home, or feeling overwhelmed that they're at home, whatever it is, tip number one, honesty. Okay, so before we go to the next family dynamic, is there anything else we want to chat about that tip, or should we move on to the next dynamic?
You got a question?
No, actually, my question was probably going to be for the next dynamic. I think that dynamic is pretty straightforward because when it's just the two of you, there's not really a whole lot of other distractions. I mean, there can be, but
it's mainly just
you two. Which kind of
okay, so you know what, that's an interesting nugget there that you just brought up, Lamar. So before we slip into the next dynamic, let's just say, even though it may seem like a couple that doesn't have kids, it's smooth sailing, not necessarily, because in times of disorder, because remember, externally, our environment, there's disorder. It's not stable. Like we're on this boat and the water is so rocky around us. How we react to the waves has everything to do with whether or not we're flopping off the boat and we're falling and we're like, or whether we're like, or whether we're working together as a team. So along with the honesty, recognize that problems you had pre-corona might feel extra exacerbated because you are experiencing heightened emotions. So if that's happening to you, remember the overall tool of honesty for that couple? Just put it out there. Hey, babe, I'm recognizing that our problems that we had pre-corona are really flaming. I'm having a hard time. It's a difficult time. Just acknowledge it, both of you, that it's hard. So overall technique is still honesty. An important point, though, that that's not abnormal if temperatures are rising a bit, but depending on the couple, they might find that instead they're working together more as a team, and the stuff that was bothering them pre-corona is closeted. It's repressed. It's in a box, my friends, in a box. And instead, they're focusing on the crisis. So it could go either way, depending on the couple.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Definitely.
Very good. So what's the next dynamic that you want to share?
You see how he's like eagerly wanting these answers, right?
Yes, I noticed that, Buffy. It's great. It's great. So, okay, so we got the couple. Now, let's talk about the couple that has kids or the individual solo person that has kids. So there's a couple who has kids, but then there's the solo parent. Then there's the solo parent that perhaps has an ex who's living somewhere else and navigating that. Who's got the kids? Are you still doing the divorce agreement where the kids are going back and forth? What's that happening
with you? Yeah, I can see that happening. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the key tip with regards to family dynamics. This is about acknowledgement, validation, and game plan. So write that down. Acknowledgement, validation, and game plan. So acknowledgement is about acknowledging what you're feeling and what everybody else is feeling. So if your kids are feeling stressed or nervous about what's going on, or sad, they're feeling overwhelmed by their schoolwork, not being able to see their friends, you as parents are feeling overwhelmed because who knows the material that the kids are learning these days.
Right.
We're all struggling with that. So whatever the problem or challenge, let's call it, is, it's acknowledged to your kid. Hey, I'm really struggling as a parent with helping you to do your schoolwork. I don't want to feel like I'm telling you what to do. It is your responsibility, yet I'm there to help you. So acknowledge that. Or if you're struggling with regards to the divorce agreement and the kids, discuss with your ex, acknowledge, this is what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? So the key technique, whether you're all living under one roof or not, acknowledge what you're feeling and what the other person is feeling, because then they're more likely to be able to hear what you're feeling, because you're feeling heard by you, acknowledged by you, which leads into tool number 2, which is validation. Acknowledging and validating. Validating is being able to say, that makes a lot of sense why you're feeling what you're feeling, even if you disagree. Like if your kid is like, well, what do I have to get up at 10 o'clock for? I might as well just sleep till 1 and then bang out my assignment, or stay up all night long playing Xbox.
Let's validate that.
Yes. Acknowledge and validate. I can see how you would want to play Xbox when there's no rules of what time you have to be up for school. That makes so much sense.
It really does. Yeah. When you put yourself in other people's shoes, it really does make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
They would be feeling.
Yeah. So whether it's that example, whatever your example is, it is about acknowledging and then validating what they're feeling, while also sharing and acknowledging. See how we keep going back and forth between acknowledging and validating, acknowledging. So you acknowledge what you're feeling and thinking and what the other person's feeling and thinking. You're validating what they're feeling and thinking. And then you acknowledge further what you're feeling and thinking in response to what it is that they're feeling and thinking. I know this makes sense.
Yes, it does. It really does. It really does. And it's simple.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very simple.
So I've had people come to me during this time saying that they're having difficulty communicating with their spouse because they haven't really been put in a situation where they've had to communicate with their spouse this much. What do you say to those people or who, because we have the excuse all of the time, oh, I'm busy, I got so many other things to do. We can do that later. You kind of brush it up under the rug. Sometimes things never get dealt with. And you just kind of keep going through life without ever addressing, certain things or conversations that need to be had. But now you got all the time in the world to have these conversations, but you still may be having difficulty having those conversations or addressing or being honest. So what do you say to people who may be having trouble communicating effectively?
And you know what? Many couples have a problem communicating effectively. And that is why utilizing the technique of acknowledging what they're feeling is so imperative, because part of the problem of communicating effectively, often with couples, is that you don't even want to really share what you're feeling or thinking with your spouse because you're trying to avoid the conflict. You don't want there to be conflict. You're pretty darn sure your spouse isn't going to agree with what it is you're feeling. They're going to come back at you and say something that's just going to be irritating. Then you're going to react. Then they're going to react. Then you're going to overreact. And it's just going to escalate. And both of you are going to be in a huff. So that's why being able to say, you can even say, I was watching the Buffy and Lamar show.
That's a great technique.
That's a great technique. Like,
right?
That's a perfect way to talk about the technique. That's great.
And renowned relationship expert, Dr. Karen Ruskin, was on.
Exactly.
She said, if I just simply say, I really want to understand what you're feeling, I want to acknowledge it, and I really do genuinely want to validate it. I also really need to feel acknowledged and validated too. So do you have patience for me right now for me to share with you what it is that's on my mind, or is now actually not a good time? Like, are you not fully present with me that now's not a good time for that? So to answer your question, Lamar, it is a combo platter of the technique I just shared, which is acknowledgement and validation, and throw in there the checky-inny technique. The checky-inny is you're literally checking in to find out, is now a good time? Not in a interrogational way or a defensive way. You're really genuinely saying, like, babe, hon, like, are you just so in the middle of something, your thoughts or just your work or something that would now not be your best you for us to have this conversation? Check in. And then your spouse, your mate, your partner will come back and be like, it really isn't a good time. Like, I'm really feeling overwhelmed right now. And you'd be like, babe, and then, so the next part of this technique is positive feedback. So then you say, thank you so much for sharing with me honestly. Interesting. See, all the techniques come together. Thank you for sharing with me honestly how you're feeling. I will totally honor and respect that now's not a good time. Why don't you come back to me when it is? I'm here for you. So now you're trusting that your mate is going to come back to you. Now here's where the communication growth in a couple can take place. Your mate now, whether it's an hour, 3 hours, that night or the next day says, remember when you came to me and you had something you wanted to talk about, but then you check in and, you asked if I was in a good place to talk about it, and I said I wasn't. I really want to know what you have to say.
Right.
Bam! This now builds the couple trust that, okay, if I'm not in a good place, I can be in a good place. My spouse will want to know when I'm in a good place. We can have this communication at a healthy time for both of us. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. I never really heard anybody talk about it like that, but that does build trust when the other person can feel like I can be honest about my feelings. I can be honest and say, you know what, I'm not ready to talk about it.
Right.
It
sounds like what it's doing is really kind of setting you up for the safe environment to have the conversation or have an effective conversation. Because a lot of times, like Doc was saying, we don't want the conflict, so we avoid it.
Right.
But if we know that environment or that conversation is going to be a safe, effective, non-judgmental type of conversation and environment, then it's easier and we're more likely to actually go ahead and go for it.
Yes, and then exactly. So then you have a conversation and it's successful. So you feel safer next time to implement the same style. And then each time you have this successful model, utilizing the model, the approach that the three of us just communicated about, and every time there's success, the couple then as a dynamic whole feels better about their communicative dynamic. And then what happens is other topics that have been more challenging. That's what I call the beaker is full concept. What happens is we all have a beaker that over time, when we're in a relationship long enough, the beaker fills up with regards to a particular category, whatever it is. Let's say, it's sexual intimacy and the couple just feels like that they're not on the same page. So every time that topic comes up, their beaker is full and they feel like they're going to bubble it over. Or let's say it's about parenting and the couple's in conflict because they feel like they don't have similar parenting styles. Or let's say the topic is about spending money. Whatever the topic is, everybody has a topic that's a beaker. Think of it like a label on the beaker that's their category. And so every time something like that is discussed on that beaker, you feel bubbleth over. So over time you avoid the topic. Well, by incorporating this model, the style of communication, you then start to feel safer where you can start addressing the beaker topics because you've been successful about dialoguing about other topics. And that's how a couple's communication style can actually improve and grow even in the quarantine.
Even in the quarantine. I know for us, like we were horrible at communication.
Oh, we used to be so bad. Oh my God.
We were so bad at communication. It was ridiculous.
And you need a technique. You need something to do. You need a plan, like you said, or it's not going to happen. But we used to be horrible. Oh my gosh.
Well, look at the growth. See, and you know what? At any stage and phase of a relationship, people can grow. My husband and I, we met when we were 18 in college. And we got married at 23. So we've been together for, we've been married. This May will be 26 years we'll be married.
Oh, congrats.
So I get it. I get it clinically. I've been a therapist for over 25 years. So I get it clinically. And I get it as an actual human life form. You have a family, you have a kid, you get married, you have a kid, whatever your order is.
Well, that's important because, it's good to know that you actually get it so you can give advice to people.
Right.
You don't want to go to the doctor that's like, okay, this is what you should do, but I've never been married. I don't have any kids.
I totally get it. I totally get it. We all have similar stuff going on. So as far as that piece then about the dynamic that we were just talking about, which is the family dynamic, whether we're all under one roof or if kids are, between parents, the third technique with regards to game plan is coming up with your mates, coming up with your kids, what the game plan is. Now that can vary day to day. This is not a military base. It's not the kind of structure and routine that the military needs. There does need to be some kind of game plan though, that you don't tell your kids. The technique is you develop with your kids. You don't tell your spouse. The technique is you develop with them. So for an example, if you're in your family dynamic, let's say your mate, let's say you have a patio. And your mate has taken over the patio for their workspace now, and you're stuck in, and you're like, damn, I used to love to get fresh air. So coming up with a game plan and being able to say, what's a good time that I'll utilize the patio, and what's a good time that you utilize the patio? You know, if your kid is up really late at night and you can hear them through the headset and you're like, I can't fall asleep because you're living under close quarters, coming up with a game plan saying, what are your hours that you're playing Xbox? What can our game plan be?
I don't think Fortnite has hours. They
You
can
know
go
what?
all night. But
You guys don't respect the game. You don't respect
who
the
is
game.
you guys?
Well, I don't really play gaming stuff like that.
Oh, you mean non-gamers?
Yeah, so I mean,
So do they have hours? Can you tell them?
I don't know. I can find out.
We don't. Our son doesn't have hours.
Well, that's the thing. Like most kids, it's whenever their other friends are available, or you know, whether it's listening to music loud, whatever the example is.
Yeah.
Workspace music. Maybe your mate or your kid likes to watch a certain TV show that just grinds on your nerves. Whatever it is, it's being able to say, hey, what can we do together to create a game plan that everybody's kind of cool with it? You know, like Mondays and Wednesdays is this, or Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever the example is, it's all about the communication with the game plan. But remember, acknowledge, validate, and come up with a game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we talked about the couple without the kids. We talked about the family with kids in the home, out of the home, back and forth. Then we have the person who's feeling isolated, as in it could be an elderly person, it could be a single man, a single female, doesn't have kids in the house. Now, that's challenging too, because they're feeling isolated and lonely. And the key technique for them is reach out to others. Even if you can't physically go to the person, it's really important to utilize like what we're doing, where you can see the person. Hearing is great. Texting is another form. Seeing, though, is another form. You can even be like,
Yeah, you need human contact.
It makes a difference, you know. It really matters. I mean, the other day I even did that. So I'm originally from New York, and all my girls are back in New York, my girlfriends. And so we did a Zoom, and we're all chatting and laughing. It felt really good. I'm over here in Arizona now. I've been living in Massachusetts for the past 15 years, but we just moved to Arizona over the summer. And so being able to connect with people wherever you are. So the technique for the person who's living solo is don't wait for others to initiate for you. Initiate to them so that they will follow in suit.
That's really good. That's good. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I know people are probably going to assume that we're just talking about relationships with, couples or people with kids, but that's also another relationship, because there's a lot of individuals that aren't necessarily alone. They have friends and they go out and they're social all the time. So they are also, needing relationship advice. Like you said, making that first move is great.
Yes, and off of what you just said, Buffy, that's a really good point with regards to the relationship, the solo individual, that you're glad that I said that, and I'm glad now for what you just said, because that slips me in something really quick. I just want to throw this in there, which is another relationship is the relationship we have with ourselves.
That's good.
So the tip for self is, what are we doing to input healthy? And so that's the technique, input healthy. And that includes, what are our thoughts? What are we inputting into our mouth, food, drink? What are we doing with our body? Are we exercising? Are we keeping healthy? What are we doing with our minds? Are we stimulating it? What are we smelling? Smell affects how we feel. Our individual relationship with ourselves. Well, we talked about all the relationships, or no? Just
that's pretty much that covers everything. So real quick, Karen, what do you do? We're quarantined, and it's becoming really. You have to be really creative when you're stuck in the house. Well, not stuck in the house, but kind of stuck in the house. There's nothing's open.
Right.
What are some quick ideas for like date night for couples that can do, they can do around the house or things like that?
So, well, what's really important when it comes to date night is not just leaving it to one person to be the initiator of the game plan, because it's pretty hot and exciting when you know that your mate is going to be the one doing it. And it's hot and exciting when you know that you're going to plan it, knowing that you're going to plan it, but the other person's going to plan it on a different day.
Right.
So one thing I would suggest is when you talk about game planning, saying something like, hey, Friday night's mine, Saturday's yours. Bam. So you know, or if you can only do it every other, if it can't be a Friday and a Saturday, depending on your kids in your life, if you feel like, or if it's a Tuesday, whatever days you pick, make sure there's clear communication. What day is yours and what day is the other one? So then you look forward to planning and you know you're taking ownership of that day. What are some fun things you can do? Wow. First off, everybody knows that self-care is important. Unfortunately, during the time of quarantine, I'm seeing a lot of people not self-caring, from guys not taking care of their facial or their manscaping that they might normally, from women not taking care of their stuff that they might normally do. So when it comes to a date night, put yourself together that you're going on a date night. Don't come in your scrubs and your grubs, and don't come all hairy and gross. Shower up, powder up, and get ready to roll. That's very important, right? And also,
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good. Don't look at me like that.
I should be looking at myself. I wore sweats last time.
That's right. That's right. And so, and food, you know, smells. So are you spritzing anything that's pretty if you have anything? Something that feels good is a lovely smell. What do you got? And as far as food, are you putting something together sexy in the bedroom? Is it something sweet? Do you have any kind of oils? Anything in the house that you can do? Massage, creams, rub downs. Those are all really fun for people. Everybody enjoys a little bit of touch. Is there music going on during this? That's also fun for date nights. Or do you want to incorporate a game? You know, is it going to be Naked Twister? Because, you know, you happen to have Twister in the house. Might as well.
You got it right there. Why not?
Right?
So, yeah. Or get some dice. Well, if I roll an odd number, this is what you have to do for me. But if I roll an even number, this is what you got to do for me. So you can play around. So those are a few date nighty fun tips. And as far as for the relationship with self, what are you doing to stimulate you? Are you painting? Are you exercising? Are you reading? What are you doing? So that's the key.
Dr. Karen, that is great.
Awesome.
Great information.
My pleasure. I'm so glad you had me on. And just in case, we should always mention the social media stuff, because if somebody wants to reach me or anything like that.
Yes, please share your social media.
Yeah, share. By all means, share.
Okay, rock and roll. So on Twitter, Dr. Karen Ruskin, KarenRuskin. On Facebook, Dr. Karen Ruskin.
You did that on purpose.
And on my website, Dr. Karen Ruskin, you know, I have an email there, you know, videos, things I've been on. If people just want to learn more information about the coronavirus or relationships, I do my best to keep blogs up to date. People could, you know, read about different topics they want. And then, of course, if they want to see my parenting book or my mental health book or my marriage book, it's all on the website. So
get that on the website. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Have fun outside. You stay healthy and safe.
And you guys too. Thank you for having me. Mwah, 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 mwah.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was, are you trying to disconnect? There you go. That was Dr. Karen Ruskin. That was really good. Really great information to deal with the quarantine. Lots of great tips. Again, you guys heard Dr. Karen's information, her website, her social media. Be sure you go and follow her. She has really, really great relationship information.
Good tips.
Really good tips that
helps you guys. Awesome.
That everybody can use during quarantine. Again, so these relationships stay healthy beyond the quarantine. We don't want anybody splitting up during quarantine and then come out the other side and y'all not be like, yo, y'all not together no more? Yeah, we broke up during quarantine.
Divorces, we don't want
we don't want any of those. So visit Dr. Karen's website and get all of our stuff. We are Buffy and Lamar. This is our show. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Tune in next week. We'll have another show. We are buffyandlamar.com, the Buffy and Lamar Show on Facebook and on Instagram at Buffy and Lamar. We also have a TikTok now at Buffy and Lamar. Be sure to hit up all of our social medias. Follow us. Yes. And YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Duh. Subscribe to the YouTube page. And, also wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, all of those.
There's some people that just like to listen, which is really cool.
People that just like to listen, yeah. So subscribe wherever you want to do. Listen, watch, listen, whatever it is that you want to do. Again, thank you, Karen, for coming on the show and joining us. This is the Buffy and Lamar Show. We will holler at y'all next week. Peace.